Here for you and me, a wonderful life. Look around and see the beauty of the sky. Here for you and me, a wonderful life. No need to run and hide. It's so out to see again. The sunshine fills my hair. Dreams hang in the air. Holding the sky and in my blue eye. You know it feels unfair. There's magic everywhere. No need to run.
Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's everybody doing? It's Tuesday, he says, like it's a surprise every week. Yeah, it's Tuesday today, isn't it? Happy days, happy Tuesday, everybody. What a wonderful day we've had in the markets yet again. Amazing as always. Good, glad to hear it, Ultimate. Good morning, good morning. Another night, another dream, but always you. Yeah, let's go, boss. Hey, baby owl. Oh, yeah. So, let's kind of jump into things. What's the name of the first song? I've got absolutely no idea. I'll just bosh the thing that I use in the stream chat. Bear with me one moment. And it will say... Oh, hopefully, not in my own voice. There you go. Enjoy that. And there we go. Right, let's jump in. What have I done? Move stuff around. Okay, right, there we go. We are back cooking on gas. So, what's new this week? Well, you might have noticed that BonkBot looks a little bit different. It's now telemetry by BonkBot. They've actually completely refreshed their entire layout. They've got a load of cool features, which, to be honest, I've been a bit lazy and I haven't tested properly, but I have seen a wonderful video of it being demonstrated. I've not traded too much in the last week, but we'll jump into it. And obviously, shout out to BonkBot/telemetry for sponsoring the stream. I'm just going to call them that because obviously you guys probably recognize them as BonkBot, but this is telemetry presented by BonkBot. You with me? Good. Thought so. So let's jump into it. So obviously we've had a lot of Let's Bonk like volume. So they've introduced this like launchpad volume tracker, which you can see is pretty handy in terms of determining like where volume is moving to, and it's clearly the whole Let's Bonk ecosystem at the moment. You know, there's a lot of kind of movement around Bonk, and we'll come into the Bonk chart in a minute because it's one of the more interesting ones. There's one's got a few memes actually, but yeah, we'll jump into it. In terms of like whale moves as well, like jumping into whale moves and peeping what they're doing is quite interesting. Now you can notice that some whales literally ape very, very early, and some are almost like complete counter trend signals. With their wallet tracker, so I've got quite a few wallets in this, it's worth pointing out that they are like literally seconds ahead of anyone else in the market, like seconds. Now obviously we've got like people buying peanut and stuff like that, which you know, is a little bit dumb because there's already a peanut, and we're gonna just, you know, I guess it was a nice little run, 300-400k, maybe. Maybe a year ago that would have ran to like a couple of million off the Elon tweet, but que sera, we are where we are. Yeah, and then there's turbo mode, so you can just instantly buy and sell certain amounts, which is pretty much, this is what I want for my trading on Bybit, to be honest with you. This is exactly what I want. Instant sale, just 20%, 100%, bosh, bosh, bosh. And if you hold down spacebar, maybe I need to configure that. If I hold down spacebar, look, bosh, 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 hotkeys, like insta buy. I mean, I probably can't insta buy half of this stuff because I need to change my numbers, but you know, you can sell 100% of it just by doing space F. No roots found, selling 0 peanut. How fucking sick is that? I literally want that for Bybit. But anyway, go sign up, you lazy bunch of motherfuckers. And that's probably like killed my algo. I will drop the link, and then you will get early access to this, and you will love it. Oh, and I've killed my fucking music. Que sera. DJ Charlie is not doing too well tonight. There we go. I've had a pretty weird day, to be honest. I've been pretty much out of the market because my daughter wasn't particularly well, so I'm kind of doing this begrudgingly. But you know, we owe the fans, you know. But yeah, we've got a bit of movement, which is nice. We've actually got a rotation, and it's not the best rotation, right? It's like 3-4%, whatever. But it's also not terrible. Like, Bitcoin is starting to show signs of life. I'm actually in like a short hedge from here. So, as we were running for the highs the other day, I was a bit like, oh, I'm probably going to get stopped on this. And if I get stopped, that's absolutely fine. This was a hedge based on like literally what you can see in front of you, you know, trending down. If this was the consistent lower highs, then yeah, that was a good place to take on risk. Take off risk rather. Actually started off quite well in terms of a nice strong sell-off, and then obviously like cucked it. and I'm still in this position. So, you know, I'm just hedging against essentially getting chopped up in this little range, because I've still got my spot BTC from like back here and back here or wherever it was. So I'm still, you know, I've still got a fair amount of like swing spot. I haven't got much of the spot that I bought in like 2017, 2018, but that's because my goal was to always sell it at 100k. I sold most of it, you know, between 102 and 106, but is what it is. But it is actually nice to see a bit of life in the old market, and you know, nothing's going to make me kind of flip on this or change my bias. Takes me out and then dies, fine. Takes me out and runs, fine. You know, we've got spot exposure. And on the scenario where it takes me out and it runs, that's actually a really good thing, because I'll be able to intraday trade the fuck out of alts. So we should notice that the speed of these rotations will increase dramatically. And that's what's boring me at the moment, right? The fact that like these rotations are like 4% over the course of like 2 hours. You know, everyone's like, hey, the market's back, and I think it's just that like constant hopium. Now, you know, we'll go into some charts in a sec on alts. There's a lot of opportunity out there, I think. Oh, we can look at this one actually on, you know, Bonk. Like, looking at Bonk from a local perspective, like this run was obviously really good in terms of, you know, was it actionable? Was it kind of not obvious? Obviously, everything's obvious in hindsight, but you know, it's nice in terms of you've got a simple structure break, you've got a simple support resistance level, you know, Bosch through here, resistance, support, etc. And then you've got a nice rotation off it. Now everyone's getting horny at these highs up here. Now personally, it's not really where I want to get horny, but you know, to each their own. You know, if this consolidates and you get some nice kind of uptrending consolidation within this little range that we seem to be marking out, so a little bit more like, let's just zoom in, a little bit more like, you know, a series of higher lows heading into this kind of high time frame resistance, then yeah, I could be definitely tempted to play it for a rotation. But at this point in time, nah, I'm just going to treat it as it's in a range, it's swept the highs, and until it shows me either a bit of relative strength or something like that, just ignore it. But there are other setups out there, actually. So I'm ignoring BTC because I'm positioned on BTC. Pepe is actually really good, and we're going to do this on my chart, not full noob. And even if I look at it on the low time frame now, right? Jesus Christ, spot on BitGet. What a fucking... No, we're going to delete that. We're going to go for the Bybit contract, and yeah, well, I've got it on my right. You know, this kind of thing here, when memes are pretty strong, like in strong conditions, you'd get away with just balls deep longing something like this for a rotation. Unfortunately, right now, you know, it's still pretty strong, but you know, you're probably looking at trying to catch it on the upper end of this as opposed to the lower end, purely because risk on environment is, you know, it's just not as risk on as it has been. So you know, I'm looking at this for the next leg. Bearing in mind I haven't been at the PC all day and so on and so forth. But good morning, ETH longers. Oh god, Ruck. Good morning. But, you know, we might take this. We might take this on stream should it ping. We will see. We'll do a little alert over here, and we'll see if we can grab a rotation. So hopefully it pings quite quickly. If not, it obviously just dies, and you know, we missed the trade, which was, you know, way back here. You know, it was much earlier in the day. I was looking at this in terms of like typical downtrend, break of downtrend, blah blah blah, but I just didn't position into it because I was, as I said, AFK. But there's a lot of opportunity on Pepe if, and it is an if. Let's go to the daily. If it can break what I think is quite a kind of pivotal level for it, right? Like you go back to here, resistance, kind of resistance, support. You know, maybe if we do a little bit like this, you know, it's resistance-ish. Yeah, a little bit choppy here, but whatever, support. Locally though, which, you know, I always give more credence to like local price action than previous, you know, like way back here. You know, pure resistance. Absolutely blast through. Almost support. Resistance, 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 resistance. You know, this is like the nth time that we've actually attempted this resistance on quite a pivotal level. And you know, if you just look at it from like a weekly perspective, you know, it's a pretty clean level across that whole area. And then if you go down to like a 3-day kind of view, and we'll delete this, but it'll take my little alert out, or 2-day, you know, you start seeing that actually things are starting to change around a bit for it. Even if you start looking at like, you know, daily trend scanners, 2-day trend scanners, it's like, it's starting to turn around a bit. Whether we just had, you know, 12-hour starting to print a bullish flag, and you know, you've got that typical PA meme of higher lows consistently, plus, you know, big meme triangle, plus break of downtrend, plus a little bit of relative strength. It starts looking quite nice. Pepe, the kind of balls deep long, you know, something like this. You do not like overly ambitious, maybe do something like this with, you know, ooh, he's popping logarithmics out. Bosh, bosh. You know, just have 3 different targets, basically. You know, no need to just swing for highs or do anything ridiculous like this. You know, I don't think macro conditions are going to change like that much and we're going to take these highs or anything like that. You know, it's pretty unreal to think that, I think. But if you want to swing much higher, then go for it. I personally don't think that is reasonable at this point in time, but you know, you do you and all of that. What's happened with Peanut? Oh, it's kind of died a bit. No, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, Pepe's pretty high up on my radar for that reason. I think it looks good high time frame. I think it's got such a clean pivotal level plus a bit of relative strength to kind of play with. I think if we can, you know, assume that this is the downtrend, this is consolidation, then it would be logical to think that this is the next leg up. So yeah, that's Pepe. Any questions so far? Was that pretty obvious? Thought process. We've had like stuff like Useless, absolutely rip, and obviously Useless is one of those ones where I bought the absolute pico top of it, like way back here, like literally where it says bear. I bought it there, and I bought like the pico top of that there. So I ate well, whatever percentage drawdown it was, like 80% drawdown or something stupid at one point, and obviously now it's up like 8x. It's like 13x at the highs or 15x or something stupid for me in my actual entry. But yeah, something like that. But yeah, this will be one to keep an eye on, I think, just in terms of like when trends start crossing the other way. If it can not die, you know, we've had a really, really strong run up. So if it can just like chill out a little bit and, you know, consolidate, just looking for that typical pattern, right? Of run up, sell off, consolidate, run again. That's all I'm looking for. But yeah, I'm not gonna try and sell mine anytime soon, because I think it's actually a really good meme in terms of, you know, it is useless. I think it kind of does what it says on the tin. H is like a new launch, which we talked about last week, but I never took any trades on it. I think it's just a new, you know, big investor kind of unlock, insta unlock, dump it all, run it a little bit, run it back, etc. Imagine if ETH would stop cucking us, maybe Pepe would fly. Yeah, there's a little bit of me that hopes like the whole pump fund saga ends with a rotation back to ETH and that Sol ETH just, you know, dies a big death. Like, the thing that's like holding me back against that thought process is that from a Sol ETH perspective, and now this is only a ratio, right? It doesn't like behave in the same way that a normal price chart would. Yeah, like it's not like, oh, we're sweeping liquidity at the lows or any bullshit like that. Like, no, that's not how I use this chart at all. You know, it looks like what you have is a strong downtrend, you have a bit of ranging, then maybe you have capitulation, and then maybe it runs back, right? Like, for it just to carry on descending and dying, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but, you know, less likely, I would say. And then, like, from an ETH BTC perspective, we're kind of stuck back in this range. And it's the same picture for Ethereum, as in, like, just pure ETH, right? You know, yes, we've come back in this range, but, you know, kind of a bit choppy. No real major strength. Like, yes, it is an uptrend structurally in terms of this. And hopefully we do leg up and run with Bitcoin, hopefully running eventually, but it's summer chop. The kind of momentum on BTC, no matter how you look at it, is just a bit shite, right? It's just pretty poor compared to like this, you know, real strong uptrend, just ranging PA. I think a lot of people are going to be chopping themselves up a bit in this ranging PA, whereas, you know, I try and see this a bit more as like, what do I want to build? What do I want to accumulate? How do I want to, you know, I'm fucking around with some different chart settings and stuff. And I'm building some indicators and doing all sorts of stuff, you know, just to try and refine my edge during quieter times, because as soon as it kicks up off again, and you know it will, right? It might not be tomorrow, it might not be a week's time, it might not be a month's time, but you know it's going to happen. And when it does happen, yeah, I'm pushing Glad as well, don't forget that. You know, when it does happen, you kind of want all the pre-work to have been put in beforehand. Share your thoughts on ARB? Yeah, man. Andy, we just looked at BTC, mate. It's pretty boring. It's just ranging. I mean, it's still strong, like from a just pure PA perspective. You know, it's pretty decent, I guess. But am I excited about it? No, not really. I would imagine it just ranges for a month or two. Obviously, if it does run, and if it does break out, and we do get some real strength, and we actually get Ethereum breaking out as well, then, you know, we're going to be in for some real fun rotations, and that Pepe long is going to just be free money, right? If he breaks out, Pepe is going to just run, you know, 35% on Pepe. That's like an easy day's work if he is actually running, right? Let's have a look at ARB. I mean, I think the last time I looked at ARB, I said it was a big piece of dog shit. Yeah, I mean, there's so many charts like this, right, which are just relentlessly down only. And kind of, for me, what's the catalyst for them coming back? And last week I said I don't understand why anyone would long Mudang, right? And I was completely wrong about that. But what did we actually do last week? Well, I said let's like chart something up. I might still have it. Let's go to Mudang. So similar thought process basically is, if this is a downtrend, this is a range, we want it to break out the range and show some relative strength before I even think about doing anything with it, yeah? I don't like accumulating in these kind of boring regions, purely because it involves holding, it just involves a lot of patience, whereas this is, I've got an invalidation, I can buy my spot here, I can just walk away, and I either get a 5-bar trade, or I get fuck all, yeah? Simple. Mudang, we said, okay, I said, alright, well, I don't really understand why Mudang of all the memes would come back, because it has been the weakest meme. Like, for that whole period, it was the absolute weakest. And then last stream, you can go back to it and look at it. We went through this process of, it's a strong downtrend, but from an RSI perspective, it looks pretty oversold, and all you want to see is, and I think from a volume perspective, we were saying that, you know, there was a little, maybe I'm wrong. No, maybe not a peak volume there, but whatever. You know, we want to see a flip of that downtrend. We want to see a reclaim of this level. We had an alert here across this line, which is essentially the entry on this trade idea. And then, you know, that pings. You get your strength. You then get your relative strength. You then get your ridiculous move, and bish bash bosh, off it goes. So I'll never sit there and say don't buy something, or that's a total piece of garbage. I'm happy to be proved wrong. The market proves me wrong all the time, right? I'm wrong a lot, but I can be wrong and lose very small amounts of money. I can be wrong and make, you know, decent amounts of money. Just because you're wrong doesn't mean that you can't change your bias and adapt. You know, I think I probably laboured that point a little bit, but hopefully you get it. You know, we ran 75% since then on Moodang in like 2 days. Fucking nuts. Buy more spot. I like a project at these prices for everything else, just not knowledgeable enough to chop. That's fair, man. And yeah, this is it, right? I was chatting to a friend and I said, how interested in crypto do you think people are at the moment? And he said, not very at all. And I said, okay, so when do you think that you want to buy? And he's like, well, I want to buy when it starts getting a bit popular again. I'm like, okay, so what you're telling me is you want to buy when everyone else wants to buy. That's kind of not how you make money. You make money by buying when nobody wants it and selling it when everybody wants it, right? And it was really weird because it's that crowd psychology thing, isn't it? Of like Bitcoin, like, or not Bitcoin, I'm on SPX chart, but you know, Bitcoin at $1,000, it's a fucking scam. Bitcoin at $100,000, man, where can I buy it? You're like, why didn't you want it down here? But it's just that human psychology. That's all it is. Here's another position I'm in, and it's a really simple one, and it has actually had quite a bit of relative strength lately. Ta-da! The old Spooks 69000. So yeah, I covered this in my outlook on Monday and said I'm buying here, and actually, you know, I think I bought here, so I think it was more like this, but whatever. So I have taken a bit of drawdown, and you know, it's come back. Excellent, lovely stuff. But if you think, right, we've had pretty suppressed prices for a few weeks, I think there's probably more relief to the upside than the downside, unless obviously the whole Bitcoin short thing works out, yada yada yada. So I'm protecting my Bitcoin, I'm protecting my spot bags. If we get that, like, you know, consistent lower highs and the sell-off, so I'm protected there. But from an intraday perspective and from like a swing perspective, you know, this is where I want to be buying stuff that I think people are going to want in a couple of months' time. So stuff like SPX, this really simple trade thesis that we're going to keep printing higher lows, and that this relative strength is kind of going to continue because it is very relatively strong. And even now, it's not too bad to jump in. Obviously a bit of a wider stop, but same premise. Positioning for the next leg, right? And basically flipping this resistance across here. That, you know, consistently seller. Is this really going to be the one? 5th time's the charm? Yeah, we can hope not. But yeah, that's kind of my next rotational swing, I think, is SPX. And so you'll see me posting about it, and hopefully, you know, all the SPX people will come running in. What else we got? We talked about desync before, but again, like, I'd want to be longing on the break of the range, basically. You know, I don't want to come into this too early. Like, obviously, I've still got a decent sized bag, but to jump back in and to go full size again, you know, I'd have to see that strength. What else have we got? There's not too much else that's like majorly on my radar. Like, we'll probably get a scam ETC pump if ETH can put its finger out of its ass, right? You'll probably get a nice, easy trade on ETC. Sorry. The only other one that I want to talk about is Fartcoin. Now, last week we had this on Fartcoin, which was again the whole. Right, we've sold off, we assume that this is the low because it was like huge volume spike, etc. We get the reclaim of this high time frame pivotal level, we get the alert pop off, we can long there, long it like that. I actually think I've still got this open. Let me have a peep. Oh no, I haven't got Fartcoin open. That one's a gonzo. Yeah, so that's gone, but I did actually take this one, and it ran a couple of percent, and now it's just chopping around. I think the sell-off last night, or whenever it was pretty horrible. But yeah, you know, I'm kind of hopeful that this comes back at some point, but there's not really much relative strength to get excited about at this moment in time. You know, it's okay. It's kind of the same as Pepe, I suppose. But on earlier rotations that I was observing this morning, it wasn't particularly strong. I sound like Trader Kane? Who's that? I don't know who that is, mate. Actually, no, that's not me on my alt account, eh? Eh? It might be. I'm assuming they're British. Very well spoken as well. But yeah, you know, taking the same trade twice, a lot of people have a big problem with, but I do not. Like, even at this like local point, you can see that we flipped this level. You can see that we flipped this range essentially. Like, we are currently in the process of like reclaiming this little range low. You know, if you're looking at local price action, you know, going for something like this, but a little bit more aggressive in terms of that. Like, if you wanted Fartcoin and you missed out on like all the other rotations, this could very well be the start of the next rotation. And again, you also don't have to be super ambitious with your targets, right? You can do something like this and go, well, does this make sense? Is the RR on this any good? You know, like, the expectancy is okay because, you know, we've got a lot of complements with like high time frame levels and stuff. Why is this being a douche? Let's go like this. I don't want it this wide. That's what she said. You know, go something like that. 5-hour trade. If you get it right and if you get it wrong, and if it actually starts dying and it comes down to here, you can always be a bit more aggressive. You know, whop the R up massively, and yeah. You know, I've never got a problem taking the same trade idea more than once, unless something catastrophic has happened, like the beta of this is absolutely dead, which it isn't. Does that make sense? Oh, he's a futures trader, is he? Yeah, fair. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think I've literally, it's been 30 minutes. I've rifled through about 4 different trade ideas. SPX, Fartcoin. We kind of talked about ETC. What else did we talk about? Pepe. Yeah, I'm not interested in different positions on BTC at the moment for reasons I went through. ETH is very interesting, but I'm just gonna. There's just better options for me than ETH, to be blunt. Like, it's just better than this fucking shite. What else? Not really much else. That's kind of it. Thoughts on MOG? MOG looked quite good today. Was it you in the group, Amadeus, who said about MOG? Because this is the thing about the Paragon, is that there's lots, it's not just like me, Jeremiah, there's plenty of people just asking about stuff. And they point that out. MOG, A, had a lot of relative strength, B, good market structure, C, broke down trend, etc. And like this little rotation, really nice. I mean, I've obviously charted MOG before, and I drew this massive, redonkulous pivot through the middle of it. But, you know, take that away. Like, does this line still make sense? Yeah, absolutely. Like, it makes total sense. And it's, again, in terms of, like, local price action, this is kind of where, you know, it's quite hard to just get bullish here and just long here and be like, right, I'm gonna long this, like, right here at resistance. Like, that's tough, man. Like, unless it's really strong on relative strength, I won't do it. And MOG is somewhere in that midst of stuff, and it did have a really good rotation earlier. But, you know, you start flipping this, and then that, to me, is where you start setting up, like, swing longs, right? swing longs, under ear, and you're trying to capture like the next leg of the market in general. Like, it's a nice consolidation, and it's a nice consolidation. Daily chart above the 50 on RSI, like, it's nice. It is genuinely nice. And if it's got any form of relative strength, it'll be a decent rip up. So, you know, something like that. I mean, you might get something like that and have to sort of move up a bit, but it'll still be quite nice if it pops and you can catch it. AGLD looks like, what the hell is AGLD, man? There's so much stuff that I'm just like clearly an obnoxious boomer to. Yeah, I mean, the big problem I've got with stuff like this is like its relative strength. And again, I'm going to do the same as what I did with Mudang, right? And that looks nice. That's a really like clean, clear, simple thesis, yeah? Like when it breaks this trend, it's probably going to rip. So, you know, all I'm going to do is do something like that and do something like that. So you can show me this chart is gaining some form of strength. It's breaking the downtrend. It's breaking structure. It's breaking out of like this consolidation, right? Breaking out of that because it tried to do it here and got capped by the downtrend. Now, if it goes for it again, this is where you might get the whole Mudang thing of, you know, just absolutely punishes like these people. Yeah, something like that. So I don't know, and I'd obviously want to see, I don't have it on here, but I'd add AGLD to this and be looking for, if it does move, how much of that is actually like relative strength. Do you say, damn, I'm still early to crypto? No, absolutely not. No. Like, it tilts me so much when people on Twitter are like, oh, Bitcoin searches have gone down. That means that like bull runs like can't have started yet. I think people in general are fucking idiots if they think that. Because 99% of people know what Bitcoin is now, right? Like, I know that I'm obviously biased because I've like orange pilled people for years, but you can't possibly tell me that this is just beginning, right? It just doesn't make any logical sense. Like, it's been going for 2 years, since the like lows, 3 years, I guess. And I'm not saying that it's over. I'm just saying that if you think you're early here, you're wrong. Like, yeah, it could still go to fucking 200k, it could still go to $1 million and all this kind of stuff, but like, what's your definition of early? I don't think it goes to any of those places in like a straight line like this, you know. I think even if it went like that, it would do something like this, you know. It would be like a painful slog. Now, obviously, holding Bitcoin for $1 million or whatever, if you can do it, amazing. But most people won't. Most people get chopped up. You know, it's definitely not early. There were like 1 million coins launched today. There's just no. I do not think we're early. Do I think it's like the best way to make money? And probably the most volatile asset class for the next 5, maybe 10 years? Yeah, I do. I still think it's the best area for people who are looking to make either additional income or to invest for the longer term. I think Bitcoin eventually reaches parity with gold. I think it gets to like, you know, 800k, something like that, maybe $1 million as like a blow off top. Do I think that's this cycle? No, I don't. If I'm being honest, I think that we are 80 to 90% of the way through the cycle. You know, I think we are much further along than 99% of CT will care to admit, purely because they want everyone else to be bullish and engage in their shit and carry on, you know, slurping, but not early, but still good if you can avoid losing yourself in the source and chasing every run out. Yeah, exactly that. Like, there's still a good amount of money to be made. If you said to me, Charlie, what's the best, you know, for someone with like an average skill set, they're not like some sort of like Google AI automation engineer or something, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd still say crypto is the best like opportunity you've got for the next 5 years. I'd say easily, and then beyond that, it's really going to depend on everything else that's happening in the world. But yeah, so am I still bullish on crypto? Yeah, absolutely. Do I still think it's like the greatest thing to happen, the greatest market to trade? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that like we're about 80 to 90% through the cycle? Yep. Do I think that we top at like 150k? Maybe. Maybe that's the kind of big blow off, and then it's, we get a little bit of a bear market, everyone goes back to utility, and we do like some boring utility plays whilst we're downtrending for a year or two, and then, countries blow up in terms of like fiat problems, and then we run back to Bitcoin and run it back turbo. And those who held their Bitcoin will once again be rewarded, and those who sold in this like infinite Ponzi scheme of down, up, down, up, down, up, will be punished. But yeah, hopefully that's kind of a good summation of how I see things. But obviously I've been here for a lot longer, so what about you guys? Do you guys think that like we're early to crypto? Do you think, if you took 10 of your friends or family and you said, what's a Bitcoin? What percentage of those 10 would be able to tell you what it is? I think next cycle start buying Bitcoin and swapped it into some alts. Locked up too much capital into alts. Yeah. Do you think we see the same bear markets we used to, or do you think it will be different now, more institutional in the game like banks, etc.? Yeah, that's a really good question. I do think that the bear markets will be not as deep and as catastrophic as the last one, but maybe that's just hopeful. I think part of it is obviously like this was an unwind of the whole COVID money printing, but also FTX implosion, lunar implosion, etc, etc, etc. Like, I think the next bear market will probably be like a 50% decline, which will put Bitcoin around about that 50k mark. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be as deep, because you got to think, like, the way I think of it is the more it ran up, the more it'll pull back. In this example, and then it reverts back to, what was this kind of normal trajectory, which is, for Bitcoin and for Bitcoin divided by M2 supply and money supply, it is kind of up and to the right, because there's only 21 million Bitcoin, blah, 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 they're printing money, etc, etc. So this time, we've probably gone up like this. It only makes logical sense that we would pull back a lot less. With all the narrative, institutional bid, all that kind of stuff as well, but we didn't have the exceptionally like ridiculous run. It's been very good, please don't get me wrong, but it was nothing like 2021, nothing like it. So yeah, I think that's a really good point as well, that it won't be as bad, but a bear market still feels like a bear market, right? You sit there waiting for trades like all day every day, and it just does nothing, and you'll be like scalping 1% rotations. The only people not in crypto now are not in because they don't want to be in, not because they don't know about it. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. Like, it's so accessible for people now. You can just go to like some of your banks like Revolut and just be like, yep, I'm going to store my money in Bitcoin. Bosh, job done. Everyone was trapped at home, chronically online. Great awakening for crypto. Pretty much everyone knows about it now. Yeah, exactly. Don't think we're early, but we might be underestimating the impact of stablecoins and what it can do to our crypto, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sorry, I'm just munching some crisps. So yeah, I think you're right. Ultimately, it does get like less and less in terms of drawdown. I think it'll get less and less again, right? What do we get? That's actually... I was gonna say, if I've drawn that right. 69%. I mean, I guess to the actual Pico low. Yeah, 83%, but... You know, and no one will want to buy it. 77%, yeah. And that's where I get to my like 50% discount on Bitcoin. You know, maybe we sweep like this low or something, and then that's it. You know, it goes like this, and then it hovers, and then it does this, and then it runs again. That kind of thing. I'm not saying that it's going to happen now, by the way. I actually think that this looks pretty ridiculous. I think this is going to just blow up at some point. You know, we are continually testing this level. There is a lot of upward pressure. Makes you wonder kind of who the fuck is selling. But, yeah. Very late to show, and a big JTO trade on 5x down 28%. Should I just add if it goes down more? I mean, my brother in Christ. But I mean, do what you want. This is educational purposes only, not financial advice, obviously. But like, that's not a terrible trade. But you're getting to the point where like you're going to be liquidated, and like you basically want it to reclaim pretty much here. Otherwise, it's absolutely fucked. Sorry to be a savage, Paul. Filecoin's going again. Slowing down slightly, but Kesera. Don't mind sharing the fees and paying on my Trump shop. They're not as bad as you would think. Not as bad as you would think. Because funding was positive for a long time. So I got paid for a long time. And then there's periods where it just dips massively negative. So I get fucked. But for the P&L card, it's worth every penny, mate. So I can laugh about that for years to come. Right, it's 5 to 8. Has anyone got any further questions or anything like that? Otherwise, I've given you some trade ideas, some trade setups, some thought processes on the market in general. You know, buy my shitcoins, all that kind of stuff. We've got some trade triggers as well, if they pop out. What have we got? Active. Got this. Cat. That. Get out my game. What the fuck's the one on XRP? Yeah, well, we caught this XRP long before, didn't we? That was pretty tasty. Might delete this because I don't know what the fuck that's for. But yeah, XRP looks alright as well. If anything, XRP, annoyingly, looks like it's properly gonna rip at some point. It's gonna be tough to get into it, but if I see it on relative strength, I will almost always just charge into it and target the highs. Yeah. Slide the leverage bar to the right. Pepe's pumping. Yeah, there we go. Lovely job. Lovely job. Hype's probably the only one that we didn't cover. And again, we went over that like last week on Strum, which was something like this, which I've not taken, by the way, but it does look pretty good. It looks like it's holding up pretty well, not gonna lie. So yeah, I think Pepe, Filecoin, SPX, 69000 or whatever it's called, this AGLD thing, that's kind of it. Kind of it. We didn't do our usual gamble on something on BonkBot, which is a bit piss poor. I'm guessing this is Dragon Lore. Oh, Dragon Lore, lovely. What's your lore? Yeah, that was the meme, wasn't it? Don't know why that's pumping again. Obviously not pumping again. This is old one. Fucking ripped 3.2 million. Jeez, jeez. Just getting PvP'd. Yeah, well, we've done Pepe, we've done Hype, Filecoin, SPX, loads of stuff. So we'll just leave it there, I think. That was a pretty good stream. We got plenty of trades out, we got plenty of triggers, we got plenty of like alerts, we got lots of things kind of set up, ifs, if, thens. You know, we'll look at TRB. Ooh. Lots of things looking tempting for rotations, but we will not long into resistance this week. And we will just play it chilled. Right, on that bombshell, we'll love you and leave you. Sign up with my BonkBot link, so you're on the waiting list. And I'll see you the same time next week. Au revoir.